Stop apologizing for margin and trust God with what you no longer need to carry because you are trusting Him with the outcomes. Hello and welcome to the Encourager Podcast, where we talk about real life and real systems so you can joyfully harmonize both home and work. I'm your host, Rebekah Scott. I'm a wife, mom, designer, coach, and lifelong systems thinker. And I help overwhelmed women build simple, sustainable rhythms that actually work for their real lives. Around here, we talk about priorities, pre-decisions, and practical tools that bring peace instead of pressure. Because you don't need more hustle, you need better systems and more grace. Today's episode is a good one. Hello, Encouragers. On this week's podcast, we're talking about growing without striving. And I do believe this can actually happen. And I've been experiencing it in my own life. I've been coaching on it for several years. And I think that both words can have bad connotations and good connotations. You know, growth is a wonderful thing and we all desire it, but then sometimes we're just really exhausted. And then striving already, even just the word is kind of hard to say. And it just feels like, striving, but sometimes we have to strive because of a season we're in or whatever. So I'm here to coach on what would it look like to still grow, but without the striving part. And I do know it is possible. Just because you can carry something doesn't mean you were meant to. And so part of growing without striving is isolating what doesn't need to happen so you can focus on what does need to happen, or focus on what letting go of something that needs to happen. Many of you listening, you are highly capable women. You are hardworking women. You are responsible women. And most likely you are faith-anchored women. But you are quietly exhausted. But we've been told by the world and to ourselves personally that growth looks like more responsibility, more output, and more hustle if you want to grow it. But the hidden cost that nobody wants to talk about is that growth without any margin or any guidance or any wisdom always costs so much more than it will actually give back. Like, if I could just get to this growth period, then I can breathe out. Not realizing though, all of that pushing and that striving is costing us so much more than that actual growth period will give back. So we often confuse capacity with availability, margin with laziness, and faithfulness with overextension. For example, capacity with availability. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you're actually available to do it well, even if it's a tiny thing. So, for example, if you technically could volunteer for one more thing, but your evenings are already stretched thin, that's capacity being mistaken for availability. If you have the skills to take on another client or project, you have the skills, but your brain already feels maxed by 2 p.m., that's capacity being mistaken for availability. Or for example, if you're the dependable one, everyone's calls, including your own family, so you keep saying yes because you're the dependable one, even though your piece keeps shrinking, that's capacity being mistaken for availability. Or if your calendar has an open slot, but your nervous system is already running hot, that is not true availability. Availability includes your energy, your margin, your calendar, and your season, not just your capability. Many of us were quietly taught that if there is any white space, we should fill it, right? Like, I'll just do something quick. I do coach on this. If you time things and you'll know how long things take, but this is slightly different. When you have true margin, it is not laziness that you're choosing to have an open block. It is stewardship. For example, if you leave space between appointments so you can reset and be present, even if it's just 10 to 15 minutes, that is not laziness. That is beautiful margin. If you protect a slow morning for scripture, prayer, or quiet time, and you feel a little guilty about it because maybe you're not starting till 9 a.m., that's still smart. That's margin being mislabeled as laziness. If you say no to an extra commitment so your family gets the best of you, that is not slacking off. That is a very wise restraint. And if you finish your work and choose rest instead of finding one more thing to do, that is healthy margin, and I will cheer that on. Margin does not equal laziness. Margin is not doing nothing, but margin is making room for what matters most in this season. Margin is not a dirty word. It is a beautiful word, and I feel like we all need to do better with it. Okay, and here's how we confuse faithfulness with overextension. Sometimes we even spiritualize, and I'm using quotations here, the overload, right? So for example, you're saying yes out of guilt instead of actual calling. Like, okay, well, I don't know if anybody else will volunteer, and I guess I do have the skill set. No. Or you're overworking because we don't trust God with the outcome. Oh, gosh. This one stings so bad for me. I will outwork my fear. I will outwork the worst case scenarios. I will outwork the best case scenarios. And priding myself on that was just digging myself a really big hole of exhaustion. Can I trust God with the outcome? Have I worked hard enough and done the things that I can control to allow Him now to take over and Him to have the ultimate outcome? And another one is carrying responsibilities God never actually assigned to us. That one. Sit with that one for a second. Are you carrying responsibilities that God never actually assigned to you? You just took it on. Faithfulness is obedience to what God asked of us, not everything you're capable of. So we are capable of so many things. I know who you are. I tend to be the same person. But faithfulness is actually the obedience to say, God, what are you asking of me? When we live in the confusion long enough, we end up exhausted. Not because we're doing the wrong things. Like all of these things that are on your plate could be good things, but we're doing too many of the right things without any margin that God definitely designed for us to have in our days. So growth is going to be being a good steward of our time while not striving. God is not asking us to prove our endurance. He already knows how hard we can go, you guys. He is not holding us to hold everything together. For those of you who need to hear it twice, He is not asking us to hold everything together. And He is not asking us to say yes just because we are capable or just because we do have a slight margin of time. He is not asking us to say yes. But He does invite us to align with our real capacity, which includes margin. He's asking us to also protect the margin so that He can be more fully known and seen within those moments. He's asking us for more rest, more worship, more time for implementation. Sometimes it's even that, because growth does take some of that. If we're not allowing enough time, we can't do the proper implementation of things that He has laid on our hearts. And He's asking us to trust Him with the outcomes, not ours, with His outcomes. When we treat striving like really going for it and like spiritualizing it or Christianizing it, this is what ends up happening. Burnout feels holy. Oh gosh, and I have totally had this. I gave it all I had, and that's why I'm exhausted. And it ends up in some weird worldly way and human way, really holy. Like, okay, I gave it everything I had, so this is what it's supposed to feel like. Ugh, it's so tough. Or when we're striving, the peace that we do have when we are not striving feels irresponsible. Like, ooh, this was like too easy, or this is too relaxing. Life isn't supposed to be easy. I got to keep striving. I got to do the right things. I got to be responsible, when actually the peace is needed and the margin is warranted. And when we over spiritualize it, rest requires explanation. Oh my gosh. Like when you find yourself justifying why you took a nap or saying it was only a 10-minute nap. That's me. Like it was a solid 8 minutes. Like what, why do I feel like I need to explain when I rest? Why do I feel like I need to earn the break before I take the break? It's because I'm striving. Jesus never modeled frantic faith. I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but it is fascinating that Jesus's walking pace was like at a 2.3 or something. If you've ever walked that on a treadmill, for me, myself personally with long legs, I'm like, this is going to take me an eternity to get anywhere at this pace. It's very slow. It's a very conversational pace. Are we surprised that Jesus walked at that pace? No. Why? Because He was forming relationships with the people around Him. Whew, I wish there was some kind of device I could put on my hand that would tell me how fast I'm going so I could just visibly see, like, you're moving too fast. Like, you're striving too hard. That would be amazing. Hey, encouragers, hope you're enjoying this episode. We'll be right back after this short break. This episode of The Encourager is brought to you by Rebekah Scott Designs, where we create thoughtfully designed purses and accessories that support your real life, not just your outfit. Every bag is designed with intention, handcrafted right here in South Dakota, and built around the belief that beauty and function should work together. From custom fabrics and linings to leathers, zippers, and really cool features, you get to design a piece that truly fits your life. Visit designyourownbag.com to create your own custom bag and use code ENCOURAGER for $10 off your purchase. Jesus did model intentional, rooted obedience with plenty of interruptions. Think about it. A ton of times in the New Testament, Jesus is interrupted. First of all, he was going at a pace where he could be interrupted. And second of all, he allowed margin in his day to be allowed to be interrupted. And big, beautiful, even small things happened when he was interrupted and when he allowed for it. I want to read to you guys from John 15, 4-5. Abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he that bears much fruit, for apart from me, you can do nothing. We've heard that. We've heard that a lot of time. But here's how to break it down. Here would look like margin and growth and just being obedient versus the striving. The branch does not strain to produce fruit. It stays connected. It stays like a flowing point between the branch and the fruit and the vine, like it's staying connected. The fruit is the natural overflow of staying connected to the vine. Healthy growth without striving in his kingdom has always been rooted in connection, not constant exertion. The branch cannot force fruit. Ooh, I've definitely tried doing that. Timing and growth belong to the vine. We are just the branches, you guys, but the timing and the growth belong to the vine. Our role is simply remaining, not managing the outcomes. The fruit is the overflow. How can I just remain in his spirit, remain with him, not trying to manage the outcomes, but being in full connection with what God has in store? Jesus defines success as abiding in these Bible verses. Fruit is the result, not the assignment. Fruit is the result, not the assignment. It's the overflow. We are to abide. We are to stay connected. That is our sole job. And when we do that, the overflow is a beautiful piece of fruit. It wasn't the assignment. The assignment was to stay connected. Our job is obedience and connection. God will handle the fruit. Okay, a personal story about how I have tried striving over the seasons instead of just growth. I have named growth years, and some of them were quite successful, and some of them were a train wreck. And you've heard me talk about it throughout the hundreds of podcasts now that I've recorded. But one that came up to mind was, this was a couple years back, I decided to do some encourager challenges. And some of you were a part of them. We did like a decluttering challenge. We did a joy challenge. We did all these different challenges. So I had the margin to be able to do it. I had the noon hour on Wednesdays to be able to do these sort of challenges. We had the skills to be able to do it. I've done challenges before. We had the tools to be able to do it. We had our website set up so that we could do the challenge. We could conduct the challenge on Facebook Live and Instagram. Like we had all the tools, the skills, and the people to execute this challenge. What we didn't have though was the why. And I knew this. Now, at the time, I would have said, yep, I know where we're going to do it because the listeners really want to know how to implement joy more into their everyday life, which is still true, I think. The listeners want to do a decluttering challenge in the month of January because we're all looking to just kind of clean out. But I still was not clear on why was I doing this. It wasn't going to move the needle in any other direction, any than those that participated. And there was quite a few that participated. But I still wasn't concentrating enough on just because I had that hour available, was it actually needed? Because it required a lot of admin to get it up and going. It required launches, which if you've ever done a launch, you know that there's like emails leading up to it. There's flows and funnels that have to be implemented after the live. There's guides that have to be created. There's spaces that had to be cleaned out and created so that I could go live and do it. I had to move a couple of things around in the production process because Wednesdays for me is when we did it. I had quite a few of sewing projects I did on Wednesdays, so I rearranged all that. And now that I'm talking this out loud with you, I realize, oh my gosh, it was not the right fit. And I should have been brave enough to say, just because we can do this does not mean that we should do this right now. I could have said yes to it in a different season. RSD had a struggling year that year. I should have paid more attention to that and less on building these challenges out. And I forced it. I strived through it. We did complete it. I think we completed it okay-ish, but it wasn't needed. But what I recognized during it is that God didn't shame me for trying to do it. I think he just gently invited me to recap for myself. Why is this not moving the needle, making an impact in the customers? And why is it draining me so much? Because it was striving and it wasn't growing strategically. As you listen to me talk about a story like that, I want you to ask yourself, where is my capacity being stretched without margin right now? I also have a reflective guide, but let me ask these questions first, okay? Then I want you to ask yourself, what currently drains me more than it gives? Is it a role, a rhythm? Is it a relationship? Even something that's good. What is draining you more than it gives right now? And then ask yourself this, where might God be inviting me to trust him more instead of compensating with effort? I know you. I know you can compensate with your amount of effort, your amount of efficiency, your amount of effectiveness. I know you can. But what if God is asking you to trust him more with what he has in store, with the margin, with a little clarity on what he wants from you? Maybe it's with your finances. Maybe you need to trust him more with your kids. Maybe it's with your work or your business or the projects. Or maybe it's with outcomes instead of trying to control all of them. Then I want you to ask yourself, what would growth look like with purpose this year? Not striving. This might look like consistency without exhaustion. This might look like structure without rigidity, like this will be when this occurs. Maybe it's a little bit more of structure in doing the steps, but less about the outcome and the deadline, just being consistent with it. And maybe this looks like obedience without fear. Let me know when you have conquered that, because I would like your feedback. That one is so hard for me. How could we be obedient without the fear and the control of the outcome? How could you do that? And then finally, ask yourself, if margin were truly a priority, what would change first? If you truly set out in this moment and said, you know what, I'm going to choose margin. I'm going to choose to allow God to move. I'm going to choose to abide. I'm going to choose to be just the vine. What would you need to change first? In the first 10 minutes of listening to this podcast, get down on your knees. Ask God, I'm choosing margin. I have to choose margin this year, God. I'm going to be faithful. I'm going to be obedient. I'm going to abide. I know all these things that I want, but I don't know how. One of my favorite prayers is, I don't know what to do, God, but my eyes are on you. Ask him, what is something I could change to provide more margin in my life? Maybe that looks like saying no to something. Maybe it looks like giving yourself a day to think about things before you commit to things. Say, I need 24 hours. It's a beautiful sentence. I need 24 hours. People respect and honor it all the time. Maybe it's permission for some rest days. Maybe it's permission for a rest hour. What does it look like in the first 10 minutes listening to this podcast where you could provide more margin in your life? If that's the only thing you answered from this podcast, go you. I have created a downloadable worksheet. We'll have it available on our podcast, theencouragerpodcast.com, where you can print it off or use your digital device and just answer these quiet journaling questions. I really believe this will allow you margin in your week, but it will really allow you to evaluate, wait, what is going on? What areas am I growing in, but I'm really just striving, like it's actually exhausting me? How could you choose a more healthy form of growing in whatever it might be, whether it's home life or work life, that would feel less like striving and more like growing purposely with God? What would that look like? So I invite you to download that guide and also forward it to anybody who think would really like this. It's always also one of those things where this is a great coffee date. Get together with a girlfriend, you spend some time journaling about this together, and then you discuss it together. Because accountability with someone that you love and trust on margin, and you give yourself permission, like, hey, we actually can take breaks, is a beautiful thing. And of course, you can always reach out to us on socials. I'd love to know how you are implementing more margin and how you're saying no to some forms of growing, at least forms of growing with striving, and what you're doing instead. Here's why it matters to choose to grow without the striving. Because margin is not laziness. Trust is not disengagement. And faithfulness through obedience in this season and trusting the outcome to him will be the answer to what your heart and your brain need during this season. A little bit more margin. Stop apologizing for margin and trust God with what you no longer need to carry, because you are trusting him with the outcomes. I can't wait to see how you just practically apply this saying no to certain things, saying yes to certain things, but maybe at a better pace for what your current season is asking for, please do share with us on social media. I'd love to see what this practically looks like in your lives. Until next time, encouragers, we've got this because He's got us. If this podcast has encouraged you or helped you in any way, I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe and leave a 5-star review. It truly helps more women find these conversations. And if you're listening thinking, I don't need more motivation, I need someone to help me figure out my actual life, that's exactly what I do. Through Encourager Academy and one-on-one coaching, I help women build personalized systems for their home, work, and life rhythms. No cookie-cutter routines, but structures that fit your unique personality, your season, and your capacity. You can explore the Academy or book a free discovery call at theencouragerpodcast.com. Let's take your next small step forward together.